to turn to the book of Luke, chapter 7. We'll read verses 1 through 10. Luke chapter 7, verses 1 through 10. Now when he had ended all his sayings in the audience of the people, he entered into Capernaum. And a certain centurion's servant, who was dear unto him, was sick and ready to die. And when he heard of Jesus, he sent unto him the elders of the Jews, beseeching him that he would come and heal his servant. When they came to Jesus, they besought him instantly, saying that he was worthy for whom he should do this. For he loveth our nation, and he hath built us a synagogue. Then Jesus went with them, those who had been sent, and when he saw now not far from the house, the centurion sent friends to him, saying unto him, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy that thou shouldst enter under my roof. Wherefore neither thought I myself worthy to come unto thee, but say in a word, and my servant shall be healed. For I also am a man set under authority, having under me soldiers, and I say unto one, Go, and he goeth, and to another, Come, and he cometh. And to my servant, Do this, and he doeth it. Then when Jesus heard these things, he marveled at him, and turned him about, and said unto the people that followed him, I say unto you, I have not found so great faith, no, not in Israel. And they that were sent, returning to the house, found the servant whole that had been sick. Only Matthew and Luke record this particular miracle that involves a servant of a centurion. A centurion was a professional officer in the Roman army, a position of high rank, commanding a military unit called a century, typically consisting of 80 to 100 soldiers. Centurions were considered by many to be the backbone of the Roman army. This particular centurion was in charge of a Roman sentry in Capernaum. And we read that in Matthew's account, Matthew 8, verse 5, and here in Luke 7, verse 1. Now, Capernaum was a Roman garrison city. Roman soldiers were permanently stationed there to assure the subjection of the people. So as a Roman centurion, he would have been a Gentile, high-ranking member of an occupying enemy army. In this case, he's an officer in an antichrist government, the Roman Empire. Luke, in his account, verse 2, records that this centurion had a servant, and this servant was very dear unto him. So this servant was not the typical slave, but he was loved, he was cherished, he was highly esteemed and respected by this centurion, which of course is all very unusual. He has a great concern and care for his servant. And in process of time, this servant became ill. And Jesus would heal him without seeing him, without going to him, without the servant coming to him. Jesus heals this man, not giving any instruction, not giving any command. And both Matthew and Luke give record of this event. Now, in the account, more is said about the centurion than the actual miracle of healing. And in the account, there are many lessons for you and I from what is said of this centurion. So I want to speak upon a centurion's servant healed. Again, we read the condition of this servant. He was sick. It tells us that he was sick with palsy. Both Matthew and Luke record that he was sick. Matthew 8, verse 6, Luke 7, verse 2. So he's in a weakened condition. He's not doing well. He's doing poorly. He's ailing. He's unwell. Matthew records the details of this servant's sickness, the palsy. He had some form of paralysis. That is, there was a loss or reduction of motion in some part or parts of his body, and due to some nerve disorder. Matthew also records that this palsy caused the servant to be homebound, my servant at home, sick of the palsy. We also see the servant was suffering greatly. We see in Matthew chapter 8, verse 6, he is grievously tormented. The word grievously refers to the degree of this man's suffering, conveys the idea of that which is very severe, that which is grave, just awful and crushing. The word tormented, of course, refers to the man's suffering and conveys the idea of agony, pain, anguish, and trauma. And Luke says in Luke 7, verse 2, he was sick and ready to die. He was sick and ready to die. That is, he was on the verge of death from this sickness. So from all of this, we see that this man's condition was very critical. It was very dire. It was urgent. It was pressing. He's about to die. Then we have the account of the healing. We see the centurion comes to Christ on behalf of his suffering and dying servant. And oh, how blessed we are to have those who go to Christ on our behalf and bring our needs to Him. And we all ought to be that people doing that for others. Luke writes, Luke 7, verse 3, and we heard of Jesus. That is, when he had heard of Jesus entering Capernaum, he sent unto him. He sent unto him. Matthew 8, verse 5 says, and when Jesus was entered into Capernaum, there came unto him a centurion. Now, it is obvious from Luke's account that others approached Christ in the centurion's name. Others approached Christ representing this centurion. So much so that it was as if the centurion himself came. He did not. The centurion himself did not come, but he sent representatives to Christ. So this centurion did not personally come to Jesus, but as Luke explains in his account, he came through representatives. He said unto him, that is, through these representatives, he sent unto him, Jesus, the elders of the Jews. Now these elders are the elders of the synagogue in Capernaum. He sends them. He sends them to make appeal on his behalf his servant's behalf. And Luke says they came. And he says they came beseeching him. So they came pleading that he would come and heal his servant. So they're pleading with Christ on behalf of this centurion and on behalf of the centurion's servant. Matthew does give the details of the plea, but again, Matthew presents it as the centurion himself came. Luke presents it that representatives came. It's not a contradiction. The representatives are as if the centurion himself came. But here's their plea. Lord, my servant lieth at home, sick of the palsy, grievously tormented. They came with a request. They gave the details of the request. My servant, he's lying in bed at home, and he's sick. He has the palsy, and he's grievously tormented. So he comes through representatives presenting a need to Christ. Jesus responds. Matthew 8, verse 7. I will come and heal him. I will come. I will heal him. Jesus was willing to do. Keep in mind, the centurion is a Gentile. Jesus was willing to do for a Gentile. Jesus was willing to do for a member of an occupying army opposed to Christ and opposed to God's people. Yet Jesus was willing. This speaks of His grace. It speaks of His love, His kindness, His compassion, His mercy. Oh, the wonder of those words. I will heal him. Now notice those words there in Matthew 8, verse 7. I will heal him. Between I will and him is a word of favor, heal. A word of favor toward this servant. And oh, again, how wonderfully marvelous. I will heal him. I will show him favor. And any time there is God's favor moving in the direction of man, that is in itself beyond wonderful and beyond amazing. Now Matthew records, Matthew 8, verse 8, the response of the centurion. Luke gives further detail by way of explanation in Luke 7, verse 6. Luke 7, verse 6, Jesus went with them. That is, these elders that had been sent by the centurion. And when he, Jesus, was now not far from the house, that is, the centurion's house, the centurion sent friends, acquaintances to him. Again, this explains what Matthew said of the centurion coming to Christ. He came through representatives. He sent these friends to intercept Christ from coming to his house. Why? Because he felt unworthy of such a visit. And what these friends tell Christ is, please stop. Do not come to his house. For he says, I'm not worthy that thou shouldest enter under my roof. They're expressing the feelings of this centurion. That ought to always be our feelings. We ought to always feel that we are unworthy for Christ to do anything in our lives. We're unworthy. No matter who we are, no matter what we do, we're unworthy. And these friends went on to say, expressing the belief of the centurion, Matthew 8, verse 8, "Speak the word only, and my servant shall be healed." Luke says in Luke 7, verse 7, "Say in a word, and my servant shall be healed." Jesus heals the servant. Matthew records in Matthew 8, verse 13, that Jesus said to the centurion, or as Luke explains, those representing the centurion, "Go thy way. Go thy way." He's talking to the friends that had been sent. "And hast thou believed, so be it done unto thee." And then we read, "And his servant was healed in the selfsame hour." And Luke records in Luke 7, verse 10, "And when they were sent, these friends, returning to the house, they found the servant whole that had been the sick." So the servant has been brought from sick of the palsy, grievously tormented, ready to die, to healed and whole. And all of this by simply the spoken word of Christ. Oh, what the Lord can do. Don't instruct the Lord how to do. Just leave it with Him. All He has to do is speak. That's all He has to do. He doesn't even have to do that. Then we move on to the example of the centurion, which is really where the stress is laid in this account. He serves as an example for the child of God. He serves as an example in character, in conduct, and in faith. What the elders of the Jews thought of this centurion speaks of the testimony that the centurion had. Those who approached Christ on the behalf of the centurion thought that he was they thought very highly of him. When they came to Christ, there in Luke 7, verse 4 and 5, they immediately based their appeal upon what they thought was merit on the centurion's behalf. They thought that he was worthy. He's such a good man. He's worthy. He's such a good man. The centurion knew better. He knew he was unworthy. But he had such a testimony that those around him, these unsaved individuals more than likely, thought if anybody merits Christ's favor, it's him. He had a testimony. We see also they looked upon this centurion. Again, he's a member of an occupying army. And they looked upon him as a man of love. They said in Luke 7, verse 5, "He loveth our nation." That's a very remarkable statement, considering this centurion is a member of an occupying army. He loveth our nation. Considering the fact that he's a Gentile living in the Roman system of government, this is a very remarkable statement. He loveth our nation. in spite of the fact that he was a member of an occupying army, in spite of the fact that he lived within the realm of the Roman system of government, he did not despise the Jews as other Gentiles. But listen to him. He says, he loveth our nation. There is a natural hatred and enmity between Jew and Gentile. And love between them was not a common thing. But he loveth our nation. Here is a man that exemplified compassion toward the people. Here's a man who exemplified care and concern. He showed himself a friend to those who were considered the enemy. He showed kindness and unselfishness. And such is to be so of every child of God. Every child of God should have such a testimony as a person of love, a person of compassion and care. They also looked upon him as a man of generosity. Notice Luke 7, verse 5. He hath built us a synagogue. A member of an occupying army. And he hath built us a synagogue. The implication is that he's a man of wealth. So here's a Gentile, a member of an occupying army, but he was a man of benevolence to those who you would think were the enemy. So there's the implication that he's a man of wealth. So here's a Gentile, member of the occupying army, but he was very benevolent to them. He hath built us a synagogue. Why would he build them a synagogue? What was the synagogue for? It was to worship God. So he built them this synagogue to encourage them to worship God, whom evidently he had come to know, which explains his love, his activity. He was a man of benevolence, a man of kindness, and benevolence should be a mark of every saved individual. The issue is not what you have. That's not the issue. Or what you don't have. That's not the issue. The issue is benevolence. Sharing what you do have. And this man had this testimony. Then we see what these elders thought of the centurion. But notice what the centurion thought of himself. Again, the Jewish elders thought this centurion is worthy of the blessings of God. He's worthy of them. As Christ is on his way to the centurion's house with the elders, the centurion hears he's close. He'll be here any time. And the centurion sent some of his friends to Christ with these words, Lord, trouble not thyself, for I am not worthy. He does not say, Lord, I've been good to these people. Please come. I've been a man of benevolence to them. Please come. He says, Lord, I'm not worthy that thou should enter under my roof. Wherefore, neither thought I worthy to come unto thee. He's explaining why he did not come personally. Because I'm unworthy. I'm unworthy. He felt himself undeserving. We have to always feel that way. Anytime we think we are deserving of God's favor, you're looking at it wrong. You're looking at it wrong. We're undeserving. We're unfit to be in the presence of Christ. Whether it be Christ coming to us or us going to Him, he feels himself to be undeserving. He feels himself to be unfit to bring request before the Lord. It's obvious from the fact that he sent others to Christ that he thought they to be more worthy than himself. I'm unworthy to come, so I'm sending these. That's saying they're more worthy than I am. How many of God's people think that way? They're more worthy than I. That's what Philippians 2 teaches us. We're to think others better than ourselves. And that's what this centurion thought. He thought them to be more worthy than himself. So the fact that this centurion felt himself unworthy to enter Christ's presence and for Christ to enter his house. Now think about it. He's a man of wealth, no doubt. He built a synagogue. I believe you can safely assume that his house was probably extravagant. But yet, he feels that he's unworthy of the Lord to come into his house. He has a reverence. He has a high esteem for Christ. This man knew something of Christ. But then notice what Christ said of the centurion. So you have what the people said. He's worthy. He's a great man. He's a wonderful man. That should be our testimony. Then you see what the centurion thought of himself. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. That should be the testimony we have of ourselves. But you know, none of that really matters. What really matters is what Christ said of this centurion. And Christ commended the faith of the centurion. Matthew records it in Matthew 8:10, and Luke records it in Luke 7, verse 9. Jesus says, I have not found so great faith. No, not in Israel. So great faith. Jesus speaks of his faith as great. That speaks of the degree of faith. It is faith to an extreme. Faith to an extreme degree. Not perfect faith, but faith to an extreme degree. This is a faith that is extensive. It's powerful. It's dominating. It's a faith that projects throughout one's life. So great faith. Oh, that the Lord would say that of us. Their faith projects throughout life. It is a preoccupation. Faith is a preoccupation of who and what the Lord is. So great faith. It's a faith that is relevant. It is a faith that makes a difference. It is a faith that leaves an impact upon one's life. And Jesus says, I have not found so great faith. And then to emphasize, no, not in Israel. I haven't found so great faith. This is also emphasizing that this centurion is a Gentile. Christ takes special notice of faith. The Lord takes special notice of faith. Jesus knows everything there is to know about this centurion. But he in particular has observed this man's faith. Jesus takes notice of faith. He also takes notice of unbelief. Throughout Christ's earthly ministry, we see Christ taking notice of faith. Without turning there, in Matthew 9, verse 27 through 29, we see Jesus taking notice of the faith of two blind men. In Mark chapter 2, verse 5, we see Jesus taking notice of the faith of 5 individuals. We've already addressed that miracle in past message. In Mark 5, verse 34, we see Jesus taking notice of the faith of a woman with a plague. In Mark 10, verse 52, we see Jesus taking notice of the faith of a man by the name of Bartimaeus. In Luke chapter 7, verse 50, we see Jesus taking notice of the faith of a woman in the house of a Pharisee. And in Luke 17:19, we see Jesus taking notice of the faith of a leper. Mark it down. Christ takes notice of faith. And he, in each of these cases, he is commending the faith of these. What does that tell us? That tells us that there is a faith that pleases him. There is a faith that pleases him. Again, nothing we do is perfect. So we're not talking about perfect faith. But there is a faith that the Lord takes pleasure in. Hear Christ say of this centurion, I have not found so great faith. No, not in Israel. So what did this man believe? What did this centurion believe? Well, he believed that Christ could heal his servant with just a word. With just a word. Matthew says again there in Matthew 8 verse 3, speak the word and my servant shall be healed. That's not what he said. He said, speak the word only and my servant shall be healed. Lord, you don't need to come. All you have to do is speak. Saying a word, Luke says, and my servant shall be healed. Shall be healed. Both Matthew and Luke record that. Lord, if you just speak, I know. There's no doubt in my mind, my servant, who's at the point of death, grievously tormented, he shall be healed. This was said with absolute certainty. It's the conviction of his heart. It is spoken with great assurance. He knew that if Christ spoke, healing would be inevitable. Not healing would be possible, but healing would be inevitable. So he believed that Christ was willing, and he believed that Christ was able to heal his servant. He believed that Christ had authority, that Christ had influence. This centurion knew something about authority. He knew something about influence and power. He says, I tell this person to do this, they do it. I send this person there, and they go. And Lord, I know that all you have to do is speak, and it'll be so. Because, Lord, I'm also a man of authority. But he obviously recognized, I don't have the authority you have. The centurion could send the soldier, he sent the elders, he sent his friends, but he couldn't heal a servant. He knew that, and he believed that Christ had authority. Christ had influence. Christ had power over all things. And in this case, over disease. He believed that. He believed that. So that means he also believed that if Christ didn't exercise his authority to heal his servant, that was the Lord's business as well. He believed that Christ was compassionate and merciful enough to heal his servant. I'm not worthy, but Lord, I know that you're merciful, that you're compassionate. He no doubt had heard of some of the works of Christ, and he believed that Christ was sympathetic. Though I'm not worthy, Lord, I know you have sympathy. He knew that Christ was a man of empathy, a man of concern and love. He believed that Christ was able. And he believed that Christ was greater than the grievous torment that his servant was going through. What this centurion believed was his basis of appeal. Those who were sent of the centurion to Christ based their appeal in what they thought was the worthiness of the centurion. That's not where the centurion bases his appeal. The basis of the servant's or the centurion's appeal was not himself. Anytime the basis of our appeal to the Lord is ourself, we're not looking at it right. We're not looking at it right. We're not looking at it accurately. What was the basis of the centurion's appeal? It was Christ. It was who the Lord is. That should be the basis of all our appeal to God. It's based upon who He is, not who we are. Lord, I've been faithful all these years. Please bless me. You've got the wrong basis of your appeal. Because if you're going to make that the basis of your appeal, to be fair, you also have to consider all your unfaithfulness. And let me tell you, they don't balance out. I'm unworthy. Therefore, Lord, I base my appeal strictly upon you, upon who you are. His appeal was Christ. Again, Matthew records, and the servant was healed. Luke records the servant whole that had been sick. He that had been sick unto death was healthy. He did not just progress into health slowly. Christ spoke the word, and he was immediately made whole. They're near the house. By the time they return, the man is whole. He's no longer lying in bed. People aren't standing around. Are you feeling any better? Oh, I'm feeling a little better. I'm feeling a little better. Wasn't anything like that. He was immediately made whole. I believe he immediately got out of bed. And I believe he knew who made him whole. The sickness was gone. Why? Because the Lord sent it away. That's the only explanation. Oh, it's because the centurion went unto him. No, that's not the reason. The reason is Christ. Be careful where you give credit. The torment was gone. The present danger of death was gone. It's all gone. Oh, what Christ can do. Oh, what He can do. This particular miracle, as all the miracles of Christ, manifests that Christ is accessible to us, and also the importance of faith. Of faith. And it is also an example that you and I would take others to the Lord in prayer. And the basis of such is not their worthiness, but who Christ is. There have been men and women that have been faithful. We ought to be faithful. But that is never meritorious on our part. Never. We're always unworthy. Always. Always unworthy. We can deserve nothing from the hand of Christ. Those we pray for, they're unworthy. They're unworthy. Don't appeal their worthiness. They're unworthy. Appeal the Lord's grace and the Lord's mercy. That's the basis of our appeal. Brother Dave, if you'd come and lead us